Hey everyone, this is Michael again, and welcome to the AEW Dynamite review, an out-of-date Dynamite review. This is going to be a review of the May 19th edition of Dynamite, and we are on the road to Double or Nothing, which is happening May 30th. And I watched Dynamite this morning, and I gotta say, it was a good show this week, in my opinion. They are definitely building towards Double or Nothing. And this week, we saw Christian Cage. He ended up facing Matt Sydal. We had Jon Moxley and Eddie Kingston versus the Acclaimed. We had the NWA Women's World Championship on the line, where Serena Deeb defended the title against Red Velvet. We saw Anthony Ogogo versus Austin Gunn. And in the main event, we saw the Young Bucks defend the AEW World Tag Team titles against the Varsity Blondes. But overall, Dynamite was a good show this week. And next week, for the next 2 weeks, Dynamite is going to be on Fridays. So after SmackDown ends at 10 o'clock, Dynamite's going to start at that time. The only reason why Dynamite is not going to be on Wednesdays for the next 2 weeks is because of the NBA games. So Dynamite next week is going to be on Friday for the next 2 weeks. So it's next Friday and the following Friday. But you guys are going to be getting 2 videos from me today. Of course, the Dynamite review, which you guys are seeing right now. And of course, later on tonight, SmackDown. So enjoy the double videos today, guys. But before I get into the review, I want to talk about the news that came out this past Wednesday, hours before Dynamite went on the air. And reading this off of WrestlingInc.com, and it was announced that AEW Dynamite is going to be moving from TNT to TBS next year in 2022. And TBS is one of the sister channels to TNT in the whole Turner networks, because you have TBS, TNT, CNN, Cartoon Network. You know, those are the sister channels for TNT. And they also announced that a new AEW show is going to premiere very soon. And that new show is called AEW Rampage. So it says right here that Tony Khan appeared on Busted Open Radio on the 19th, on May 19th, and announced a new agreement with Warner Media. So the new agreement will see AEW Dynamite move to TBS in 2022. It was also revealed that a new TV show called AEW Rampage will premiere on Friday nights at 10 o'clock, and it will premiere on August 13th. And it says right here that, you know, since AEW Rampage is going to be on TNT, it will be moving to TBS sometime next year in 2022. No official date has been announced when Rampage will be moving to TBS. So Tony Khan then also revealed that AEW will begin airing quarterly TV specials on TNT in 2022. So that's the news right there. But you know, it's a good move that AEW Dynamite is moving to TBS. You know, so they won't have to be pushed because of the NBA games that happen, like the NBA playoffs. So on TBS, they could do better there, and the ratings will probably rise even more. I think it's a good move on their part. But I think TBS also has like the MLB playoffs also on there. So they'll have to watch out for that if a game is being played on Wednesdays. But AEW Rampage is going to be on Friday nights starting August 13th at 10 o'clock. From a business point, it's good that, it's good about that. But as a fan, I'm like, really? We got to have another hour of wrestling on Friday nights? Because we have 2 hours of SmackDown and then AEW Rampage. So as a total, that's 3 hours worth of wrestling on Friday. It's bad enough that we got to sit through 3 hours of Monday Night Raw every Monday. But, like I said, from a business standpoint, that's good on their part. But I'm like, another hour of wrestling on Friday. And for me, how the way that they should have put the new show, I think it should have either gone to Thursday nights or hell, Saturday nights. I think Saturday nights would have been, a better move. Having AEW Rampage, on Saturday nights, because look at it this way: we have 3 hours of Monday Night Raw, 2 hours of NXT on Tuesdays, Dynamite on Wednesdays, which is 2 hours, Impact on Thursday, which who watches Impact? So I think that's 2 hours. I think Impact is 2 hours. I don't know. And then Friday, we have 2 hours of SmackDown and an hour of AEW Rampage. So I think Saturday night, in my opinion, would have been, a lot better, in my opinion, because nothing happens on Saturday night. But I think that would have been my option. I think they should have not put it on Friday and put it on Saturday nights. So, but like I said, as a business standpoint for them, it's good on their part. So, but there you go. AEW Dynamite moving to TBS next year, and we're going to be getting AEW Rampage on August 13th. But let's jump right into the review. So Dynamite opened up on Wednesday with Christian Cage versus Matt Sydal. And this was a pretty solid match here. We had Taz on commentary along with Excalibur, JR, and Tony Schiavone. So the start of the match, Christian ended up trying to go for an early pin. Sydal ended up kicking out of it. Sydal ended up doing a side headlock on Christian Cage. He was looking to go for, some pin attempts to pin Christian Cage, which Christian ended up kicking out of it. So they both end up locking up. They headed into the corner. Christian ended up slapping Matt Sydal in the face. Sydal came back, hit a Hurricanrana, and he did a moonsault press off the middle rope, which looked pretty cool. Christian ended up kicking his feet out from Matt Sydal. Sydal went out to the floor. Christian ended up delivering a drop kick to Matt Sydal on the outside. Sydal ended up getting back into the ring, which Christian ended up putting him back into the ring. Christian did a diving uppercut. He ended up going for the cover, which Matt Sydal ended up kicking out at 2. At the end of the match, Christian ended up winning. He ended up pinning the kill switch to Matt Sydal, went for the cover, and there you go. Christian Cage ended up winning the match. Post-match, Christian ended up helping Matt Sydal up. He ended up giving Sydal a hug. Sydal gave him a bow. Taz was talking trash on commentary because he wasn't happy that Christian won the match. So Christian ended up inviting Taz into the ring. So then out came Ricky Starks. Ricky Starks ended up heading out to the stage. He had a mic in hand. Starks ended up saying that he's his own man and that he's going to be out front and center and not on the sideline. Starks ended up saying to Christian that he has some business to settle. So he ended up calling out Hobbs, Brian Cage, and Hook. So Brian Cage, Hobbs, and Hook end up jumping in from the crowd, end up attacking both Matt Sydal and Christian. And Hangman and Page ended up walking out, had a drink in hand, and he handed his drink over to Ricky Starks. Page ended up getting into the ring, and he started swinging away on Hobbs and Brian Cage. Brian Cage ended up tossing Page out to the apron. Page ended up delivering the buckshot lariat to Brian Cage. Hook ended up jumping into the ring. He ended up chop blocking Page from behind. Brian Cage then went and delivered the powerbomb on Hangman and Page. And pretty much that was that. So this is setting up, of course, their match at Double or Nothing. Brian Cage is going to face Hangman and Page on May 30th. It's going to be another good match between the both of them. So overall, it was a solid match between Christian and Matt Sydal. And then we had the Varsity Blondes, Griff Garrison and Brian Pillman Jr. And Julia Hart was there with them. Of course, Julia Hart, no relation to the Hart family. So the Varsity Blondes end up cutting a promo. Brian Pillman Jr. ended up saying that his dad wasn't the reason he got into wrestling. It was the reason he stayed away. And there was the Dark Side of the Ring episode that they did of Brian Pillman, which aired 2 weeks ago, which I thought that was a really good episode of Dark Side of the Ring, focusing on, his career. And, the guy was awesome whenever he was in the ring. And Brian Pillman Jr. also was a part of that episode talking about his father. But it was a very good episode of Dark Side of the Ring, focusing on Brian Pillman. If you guys haven't seen it, I would definitely recommend it. So Brian Pillman Jr. ended up saying that the Young Bucks were good stand-up guys and were the reason they are here. Garrison ended up recalling run a merch table years ago for the Young Bucks. And then he gets into AEW. So Garrison ended up saying, fast forward to today, Matt and Nick are not the same guys they used to be. And it's time for them to get a reality check. Brian Pillman Jr. ended up saying that they won't stop until they reach their destiny as the World Tag Team Champions. I'm sorry to say, the Young Bucks, they're not losing the tag team titles anytime soon. But it was a decent promo from the Varsity Blondes. So then we went to Jon Moxley and Eddie Kingston. The both of them ended up talking about making a dent in the tag team division after they've put together a string of wins. Moxley ended up asking Eddie Kingston if they are inviting them to a super kick party. Kingston ended up responding that neither of them throw super kicks. So Moxley ended up saying that they are just going to beat the brakes of the Acclaimed. So the Acclaimed end up cutting a promo after Moxley and Eddie Kingston. The Acclaimed ended up talking about Moxley and Kingston invading their space in the tag team division. Anthony Bowens went on to say that if Moxley and Kingston want a tag team title shot, they have to go through them and that they are getting their asses dropped. So that's what Anthony Bowens had to say of the Acclaimed. And so then we had the match. Jon Moxley and Eddie Kingston versus the Acclaimed. It was a good match here. Jon Moxley and Eddie Kingston ended up coming out first. They came out to a different version of Wild Thing. So they made their way to the ring. And then the Acclaimed ended up coming out. Max Caster was on the mic. And he was dissing Eddie Kingston by what he was wearing. Because Max Caster was like, Eddie, why are you dressed like it's '04? And he ended up saying that Eddie Kingston looked like a box of Newports. So then he went on. He ended up talking shit to Jon Moxley, rapping and dissing Jon Moxley. And he ended up saying that his wife hit him up, that Jon Moxley's wife, Renee Paquette, hit him up for some oral sessions. And what Max Caster is referring to is the oral sessions is Renee Paquette's podcast. So Anthony Bowens ended up replying, what? She wants us to be on the podcast. So Moxley was pissed off about that. So Anthony Bowens was trying to yell for AEW, but then Moxley ended up coming in and took out Anthony Bowens. Kingston went to work on Max Caster, which the match ended up getting underway. Moxley was stomping away at Max Caster in the corner. Kingston came in, and him and Moxley ended up taking turns, throwing some strikes at Max Caster. Moxley ended up delivering a chop to Max Caster's chest. He brought Eddie Kingston back into the ring. Kingston ended up going up to the second rope, but Max Caster ended up delivering a dragon screw leg whip to Kingston. So because of that, Max Caster and Anthony Bowens ended up getting some momentum in the match, and they were continuing to work over Eddie Kingston. So Anthony Bowens was in the ring. He delivered a inverted cloverleaf to Eddie Kingston. Kingston ended up bringing Moxley back in. Moxley ended up sending Anthony Bowens out to the floor. So then we had Anthony Bowens end up getting back up to the apron. Moxley ended up applying a sleeper on Anthony Bowens. Anthony Bowens then ended up dropping down to the floor. And at the end of the match, Moxley ended up coming in because Eddie Kingston was the legal man. So Moxley ended up coming in. Him and Eddie Kingston did a wheelbarrow, and Moxley ended up hitting the paradigm shift on Anthony Bowens. It was a combo move. And Moxley ended up going for the cover. And there you go. Moxley and Eddie Kingston ended up winning the match. Overall, good match between Moxley and Kingston and the Acclaimed. Then we went backstage. Alex Marvez ended up going to talk with Chris Jericho. Marvez ended up wanting to know if the Inner Circle is going to accept the Pinnacle's challenge for the Stadium Stampede match at Double or Nothing. So Jericho ended up telling Marvez to bounce before he makes Malenko, because Dean Malenko was with Chris Jericho during this. So Jericho ended up telling Marvez to bounce before he makes Dean Malenko mad. So that was that. So then we had Tony Schiavone. Tony Schiavone was in the ring along with Ethan Page and Scorpio Sky. Schiavone ended up talking about Ethan Page and Scorpio Sky's recent attack on Sting. Scorpio Sky ended up saying that when he was a kid, Sting was the best, and he was everything good about pro wrestling. Scorpio Sky ended up saying that he wanted to be just like Sting. But over time, that feeling changed. Scorpio Sky ended up saying that Sting is not the same man that he used to be. Scorpio Sky ended up warning Sting to step aside, or he will put him down. So Ethan Page ended up telling Tony Schiavone that he can finish this interview. So he ended up telling Tony Schiavone to head out of the ring. Page ended up talking about throwing Darby Allin down the steps, 2 weeks ago at, the Dynamite with Blood and Guts. Before the Blood and Guts match happened, we saw Ethan Page. He ended up throwing Darby Allin down, the steps of the Daily's place. And he was saying about that, and then he's mentioned about how Darby Allin lost the TNT Championship last week. So Page ended up saying that he knows how much that title meant to Darby Allin, and that title meant the world to him. He wanted to say that he's here to take everything away from Darby Allin. So Page was like, I will be the nail in your coffin. So we had Sting end up coming out. The lights end up going out in the Daily's place. Sting made his way out. And then Darby Allin came from behind. He ended up hitting the skateboard. He ended up smacking both Ethan Page and Scorpio Sky with the skateboard. So we had Ethan Page, Scorpio Sky, and Darby Allin and Sting end up brawling. Sting ended up taking the skateboard, and he ended up cracking Scorpio Sky with the skateboard in Scorpio Sky's midsection. So Darby Allin ended up continuing to swing away on Ethan Page. Sting ended up delivering the Scorpion Deathlock on Scorpio Sky. Scorpio Sky ended up tapping out. And Darby Allin was just staying in Ethan Page's way, so Ethan Page couldn't get back into the ring. Sting still had the Scorpion Deathlock locked in on Scorpio Sky. So Ethan Page and Scorpio Sky end up looking to leave, but then the Dark Order end up coming out. So we had Ethan Page and Scorpio Sky end up running into the Raptors, the Bleachers, and pretty much that was that. But overall, this was a decent segment here. And then we went to the Pinnacle. The Pinnacle was at a restaurant. All of them were sitting at a table. MJF was at the head of the table. He was at the center of the table. So MJF was mocking Jericho for being so funny. And with him soaking them in some of the bubbly, which we saw last week. It was, them ripping off the Stone Cold beer truck. So MJF ended up saying that he hopes Jericho laughs himself silly about how great he is. Because for the first time in his career, he's dealing with the guy who also gets the last laugh. Dax Harwood ended up saying that they should be chasing the tag team titles, not having to deal with the Inner Circle. So he ended up going to get some more wine. We had a server end up bringing him it. Shawn Spears ended up holding his glass up. MJF ended up getting his glass also filled up with some wine. So Shawn Spears ended up telling the server to come over. He ended up slamming his head down on the table, and he ended up going to hit him with a wine bottle. Tully ended up backing Shawn Spears down. Tully ended up tossing the server some cash, and he ended up saying, "Oh, that should take care of it." So MJF ended up finishing with his signature, ended up saying, "When you're in the Pinnacle, you're always on top." So that was that. Pretty enjoyable segment with the Pinnacle here. Just them talking about if the Inner Circle is going to accept the Stadium Stampede match at Double or Nothing. But it was an enjoyable segment. And then we had Hikaroshida versus Rebel Ariba, whatever you want to call her. But Rebel This was a title eliminator match. This match sucked, in my opinion. Rebel is awful in the ring, as what we saw in this match. Right when the match starts, she ends up faking an injury, so Hikaroshida wouldn't get her hands on her. And Hikaroshida, she's been the AEW Women's World Champion for a year now. So Rebel ended up taunting Hikaroshida. She ended up landing a shot at Hikaroshida, but she ended up getting smacked in the face by Hikaroshida. So Britt Baker and Hikaroshida were talking some trash. Shida ended up putting on the black glove, mimicking Britt Baker. Hikaroshida ended up trying to go for a lockjaw, but Britt Baker ended up bringing the Women's World Championship up on the apron. So the referee was distracted, so Rebel ended up hitting Hikaroshida in the back with her crutch. So there's that. Rebel has to cheat her away just to land a strike at Hikaroshida. So Rebel ended up delivering a release suplex to Hikaroshida. She went for the cover. Shida ended up kicking out at 2. So Hikaroshida then ended up hitting a knee breaker, and ended up applying the stretch muffler to Rebel. So that was that. Hikaroshida ended up winning the match. Awful match. Post-match, Britt Baker ended up jumping into the ring. She ended up attacking Hikaroshida. She ended up bringing the AEW Women's World Championship into the ring. And she ended up curb stomping Hikaroshida down on the title. So Britt Baker then picked up the title, held it above her head, and she did her famous DMD. And that was that. Well, like I said, this match was awful. Rebel was awful in this match. She should just stick to being Britt Baker's manager. Please stay out of the ring. And then we had footage from last week where we saw Kenny Omega and Don Callis. They were in the trainer's room and they wanted to speak with Orange Cassidy. So they ended up asking the best friends, Chucky T and Trent, and the alien, Chris Statlander, to head out of the trainer's room, which they did. So Kenny Omega and Don Callis, they were both sitting next to Orange Cassidy, and they were talking to him about him getting knocked out in his match against Pac. So Kenny Omega ended up saying that they care about Orange Cassidy and that they need Orange Cassidy to be the mascot of AEW, but not really a main eventer. So Omega ended up saying that he's speaking as an EVP because Omega is one of the EVPs of AEW. The Young Bucks are also, and Cody Rhodes. So they're the EVPs of AEW. So Omega ended up saying that he wants to protect Orange Cassidy. So Don Callis ended up saying that they have a simple legal document that they are injured and can't work at Double or Nothing. But he also ended up saying that they will still get a future title match. Orange Cassidy then ended up taking the paper. He slowly ripped up the paper in half. He slowly ripped up the legal document. And Kenny Omega was like to Orange Cassidy, "You didn't even read it." So then Kenny Omega ended up trying to talk to Orange Cassidy, performer to performer. So Omega ended up saying to Orange Cassidy that he could injure and also even end his career, Orange Cassidy's career, or even end his life. Omega ended up saying that it would be terrible if any of that happened. So Don Callis then gave Orange Cassidy another copy, and he ended up telling Orange Cassidy to hold it and think things over. So Omega and Don Callis end up heading off, and that was that. So then we had the Inner Circle. The Inner Circle ended up coming out: Jericho, Guevara, Ortiz, and Hager. Santana is still out. So the Inner Circle head out to the ring. Ortiz got on the mic. Ortiz ended up saying, plain and simple, he wants to have a fight. So Sammy Guevara ended up agreeing. Sammy Guevara ended up saying that this battle will never end between the two groups. He ended up calling the Pinnacle a bunch of clowns, and that everybody already knows his answer for the match. Jake Hager then got on the mic. He ended up saying that they don't have a choice because they have said since the beginning that the Inner Circle are the baddest. He ended up saying that if they don't accept, they are just like the Pinnacle, a bunch of cowards. So Jericho then got on the mic. Jericho ended up saying that ultimately what he heard loud and clear is if they accept the challenge. But they have to also accept the possibility of breaking up for good if they lose. So Jericho ended up saying that he wonders if it's worth it. He wonders if blood and guts was worth it. So Jericho ended up saying that his banged up elbow will heal. But won't heal is MJF throwing him off the top of the cage. Jericho ended up saying that he felt like it was for hours and his head nearly hit the back of the stage, and that could have been the end of him. So Jericho was like, was it worth it? He ended up saying it is because MJF has given him the fire and inspiration to come back and beat the Pinnacle's asses. So the entire group ended up saying yes to the Pinnacle's challenge at Double or Nothing. So Jericho ended up knowing Santana will be back next week and that hell is coming for you, Pinnacle. So that was that. So the Inner Circle ended up accepting the Pinnacle's challenge at Double or Nothing in a Stadium Stampede match. If the Inner Circle loses, they break up. So, but really looking forward to seeing the Stadium Stampede match at Double or Nothing. So, but pretty good segment from the Inner Circle here. Liked what Jericho had to say. And then we saw Tony Schiavone. Tony Schiavone was talking with Jade Cargill about if she made any decisions about who she wants to work for. Cargill ended up saying that she's not working for anyone. Why should she? She doesn't need somebody to work for her. She don't need a manager. And I said that before. So we had Mark Sterling. Mark Sterling ended up showing up again. And he ended up saying that he doesn't want Jade Cargill to work for him. And that he wants to work for her. So Jade Cargill didn't appreciate Mark Sterling just showing up during her interview. And Jade Cargill ended up telling Mark Sterling to get lost. So Jade Cargill ended up saying that she will think about his offer, though. But you don't need, Jade Cargill, you don't need a manager. You're best on your own. So, like I said before, Jade Cargill does not need anyone to work for her or be a manager to her. She doesn't need it. She works well on her own after the matches, what we saw with her. So then we had Serena Deeb versus Red Velvet for the NWA Women's World Championship. Serena Deeb is defending the title. Deeb ended up coming back after a knee injury that she sustained. So this was a pretty good match here. This was a pretty good women's match here. Serena Deeb ended up delivering some shots to Red Velvet as the match started. Serena Deeb ended up landing a twisted neck breaker to Red Velvet. She went for the cover, which Red Velvet ended up kicking out too. Serena Deeb ended up delivering a kick to Red Velvet's thigh. Red Velvet came back and delivered a kick to Serena Deeb's face, but she ended up running into a back elbow. Red Velvet ended up getting Serena Deeb into the corner, delivered a bunch of shots, and then a kick to Serena Deeb's midsection. So Red Velvet ended up getting Serena Deeb into the ropes. She ended up delivering a running backstab and a standing moonsault to Serena Deeb. She went for the cover. Serena Deeb ended up kicking out at 2. At the end of the match, you had Serena Deeb win the match, where she ended up delivering the Serenity Lock on Red Velvet. So Red Velvet ended up tapping out. So there you go. Serena Deeb ended up winning the match, retaining the NWA Women's World Championship. So overall, good match here from Serena Deeb and Red Velvet. It was entertaining, and it was a lot better than Rebel versus Hikaroshida earlier in the night. At least this was entertaining. So then we went backstage. Alex Marvez was with Pac. Pac was not happy about missing out on opportunities. And Pac ended up saying that he has his match now, and that there's nothing that the Elite can do about it. So he ended up asking Alex Marvez, what fool would bet against him? So, little backstage thing with Pac there. Now we went to Austin Gunn versus Anthony Ogogo. Austin Gunn came out along with Cody Rhodes and Arn Anderson. Anthony Ogogo came out along with QT Marshall and the rest of his guys, the factory. So this was just a short match here. This is pretty much a squash match. Austin Gunn ended up delivering a shotgun dropkick to Anthony Ogogo as the match started, as the bell rang. Austin Gunn was delivered some strikes, and Anthony Ogogo ended up blocking the strikes, and Ogogo ended up throwing a shot at Austin Gunn to his midsection. So the referee was checking on Austin Gunn. Ogogo had a cut to his face from the strikes that Austin Gunn was throwing at him. So Austin Gunn was looking to be bleeding from his mouth. And the referee was about to stop the match, but Austin Gunn ended up stopping the referee from just stopping the match altogether. So Austin Gunn ended up going for a single leg takedown, which Ogogo ended up reversing it. So Anthony Ogogo ended up helping Austin Gunn up, and he ended up delivering a pop-up punch to Austin Gunn's stomach. Anthony Ogogo. And then the referee just called for the match there. So Anthony Ogogo ended up winning via referee stoppage. Post-match, Cody Rhodes ended up coming in to check on Austin Gunn. Anthony Ogogo was shown grabbing the American flag that Cody ended up bringing out, because Cody ended up coming out with the flag. Ogogo ended up tossing it in the air, and Cody ended up grabbing it. So the referees end up all coming out to the ring to try to get the two guys separated, so there's no collision between them. Just save it for Double or Nothing, when we see it. So we had Anthony Ogogo end up taking the British flag, and that was that. But squash match, easy win for Anthony Ogogo. Can't wait to see the match at Double or Nothing between him and Cody Rhodes. It's gonna deliver. So now we had Alex Marvez. Alex Marvez was talking with Christopher Daniels and Frankie Kazarian about how they had to disband last week. So Alex Marvez ended up asking Christopher Daniels about his tweet, where his tweet ended up saying, that might be all. So Christopher Daniels didn't say anything. And he was whispering to Frankie Kazarian, and he ended up shaking Frankie Kazarian's hand. And Frankie Kazarian ended up saying that he doesn't have time to talk about how much Christopher Daniels means to him. Frankie Kazarian ended up saying that Christopher Daniels may or may not be done, but he is still going to move forward. He ended up saying that he learned so much from Christopher Daniels. So he ended up saying that he lost something last week and that he's going to hunt down every member of the Elite for what they did to him. So that was that. And we also saw Christopher Daniels end up having some stitches at the top of his head right here, like by his eyebrow, because he was bleeding like hell last week. And then we saw Miro, the TNT champion. Miro ended up defeating Darby Allin last week. So Miro headed out to the stage, and he ended up thanking Jesus Christ for protecting him and giving him strength, power to defeat everyone. So Miro ended up saying that he took what Darby Allin said he could not be taken. He ended up saying that now everybody knows it doesn't matter if you're the baddest on earth or the most popular thing in AEW. He ended up saying that if he wants it, it's done. Miro wanted to say that he forgives Darby Allin and says all he has to do is go home and make more of his student videos. So we had a "We Want Darby" chant from the crowd. So Miro ended up holding up the TNT Championship, and he ended up saying, "This is your Darby." So he ended up saying, next Friday on Dynamite, he will defend the TNT Championship. So Lance Archer then ended up coming out. So Lance Archer ended up telling Miro to shut the hell up. He wanted to say that he's been the monster here a lot longer than he has. So Lance Archer ended up saying that he can't wait for Double or Nothing when he takes the TNT Championship and makes Miro his Bulgarian bitch. So Miro ended up saying that the difference between them is an old man doesn't hold him back. He was referring to, of course, Jake Roberts. He ended up saying that when he wants something, he just takes it. So he ended up telling Jake Roberts to stay away. He wanted to say that Lance Archer always says, everybody dies. And it's true. But Miro ended up insisting that Lance Archer dies first. So that was the segment. That was what Miro had to say. But, now that Miro's the TNT champion, you could tell that they're ready to book this guy right. And book him how he should have been when he came into the company, by not pairing him with Kip Sabian. I think pairing Miro with Kip Sabian hurt Miro a little bit there, but now that he's away from Kip Sabian, this is how Miro should have been booked when he debuted with AEW. So I hope Miro has a long reign with the TNT Championship. So, and you can tell that this is steps right here on booking the guy right. So then they went over what we're going to see next week on Dynamite. It's going to be on Friday at 10 o'clock. We're going to have Miro defend the TNT Championship against Dante Martin, which right there, Miro is retaining the title right there. Joey Janela versus Hangman Page. That's going to be a pretty decent match there. We're going to have the weigh-in between Anthony Ogogo and Cody Rhodes. Jay Cargill is going to issue an open challenge, which you already know right there. Cargill is going to win. Then we're going to have a celebration of the Inner Circle. I guess the Pinnacle is going to have a celebration of the Inner Circle. before their Stadium Stampede match at Double or Nothing. And also we're going to have Evil Uno and Stu Grayson, the Dark Order versus Scorpio Sky and Ethan Page. Darby Allin's going to be taking on Cesar Bononi, which you already can tell right there, Darby Allin's going to win it. We're going to have the 1-year anniversary of Hikaroshida as the AEW Women's World Champion. And Orange Cassidy is going to respond to Kenny Omega's offer to defer his title shot. So we're going to be seeing that next week on Dynamite next Friday, which is going to be the go-home show for Double or Nothing. And they also said that next Friday's Dynamite will also have a special announcement for the buy-in match before Double or Nothing. So then they also announced that Double or Nothing, it's going to be Sting and Darby Allin versus Scorpio Sky and Ethan Page. So that's set for Double or Nothing. And that's going to be Sting's first match at a pay-per-view in 6 years. So that's something to look forward to. Main event. The Young Bucks versus the Varsity Blondes. AEW World Tag Team titles on the line. The Bucks end up coming out along with Don Callis. Varsity Blondes came out along with Julia Hart. And this was a pretty good main event here. Really enjoyable match. We had the Varsity Blondes end up taking down the Bucks in the early part of the match. Nick Jackson ended up getting to the ring. He ended up tripping over the bottom rope. He ended up getting dropped by Pillman. So Matt ended up coming into the ring. He got his arm worked over by Pillman. Delivered a drop kick. So Nick ended up walking the ropes. He ended up doing a double stomp on Pillman. And then he splashed down on Griff Garrison. So the Young Bucks will continue to work over Pillman. So later on in the match, we had Matt Jackson end up coming in. He had the sharpshooter locked in on Pillman. Nick Jackson was on the outside, and he had a spray in hand. Nick Jackson ended up spraying Pillman in the face. Cutler was distracting the referee. Griff Garrison ended up running in. He ended up kicking Matt, but he then got a super kick from Nick Jackson. And another can of the spray was thrown in. And Julia Hart was yelling at the referee to get the can. The referee ended up spotting it. He ended up getting rid of it. And another can was thrown in by Cutler. So Matt ended up spraying Julia Hart in the face. She ended up screaming. She fell to the ground on the stage. So Matt Jackson ended up dropping Pillman, and he ended up applying the sharpshooter again. Nick Jackson ended up getting rid of Griff Garrison. He ended up hitting a face buster on Griff Garrison, and Brian Pillman Jr. had to tap out. So there you go. The Young Bucks ended up winning the match and retaining the World Tag Team titles. Post-match, the Bucks were celebrating in the ring with Don Callis and Cutler. Cutler was spraying them with the spray. So Moxley and Kingston end up coming out. They both got into the ring. We had Don Callis and Cutler end up getting out of the ring. Kingston and Moxley end up swinging away on the Young Bucks. And Kingston was biting Nick Jackson in the face. Moxley ended up putting Matt Jackson to sleep. And Eddie Kingston ended up doing it to Nick Jackson. And both of them were passed out. The Young Bucks were passed out. So Moxley and Kingston end up stealing Matt and Nick's Jordan sneakers. I think they were, white and gray. So they end up stealing the sneakers. And on commentary, they end up noting that it will be Moxley and Kingston versus the Young Bucks at Double or Nothing. So there you go. And that was how Dynamite went off the air. But overall, it was a good main event and a good Dynamite this week. But anyways, that's it for my review of AEW Dynamite for this week. Thank you all for watching. Hope you all enjoyed this review. Remember, next week, Dynamite's going to be on Friday at 10 o'clock. It's going to be after SmackDown. I don't know if I'll cover it, because I do SmackDown. And then, I work on Saturdays. So, if I, get a day off, which my day off is Monday, it's going to be late with the review. So, who knows? I probably won't review Dynamite next Friday, or I won't review it the next Friday after. So, but anyways, that's it for the review. Like I said, thank you all for watching. Definitely give the video a thumbs up, comment, subscribe, and I will see you all later tonight for SmackDown. So until then, see you all later tonight.